Alrighty, good Thursday morning, Mid-Michigan. I'm First Alert meteorologist Matthew Mondro here with the update on your First Alert forecast and a look ahead at the remainder of this week and even a little bit into the weekend as well. Now, I will say really the big story from here in the forecast for the remainder of the week is that our conditions are going to be staying colder, below freezing. In fact, this weekend in particular, that's looking a little bit colder for us as well. We're actually talking highs that are mostly going to be into the teens. We'll go ahead and take a look at that right now. So there's just a preview of that weekend forecast. If you're already starting to make some plans for then, we have a high of only about 17 on Saturday and then 20 on Sunday. So even on Sunday, that does mean most of the day is spent in the upper teens. And we actually even have overnight lows that should fall down into the single digits, both on Saturday night and Sunday night. And even tomorrow night, for Friday night, we'll have lows that are coming pretty close to the single digits mark as well. So it is definitely going to be on the colder side as we go into the upcoming weekend. And that does mean that any of the snowfall that stuck from yesterday, that'll still stick around even as we go into the weekend as well. There's a look at those high temps even for today. We're going to stay below freezing. Most of our highs up to about 27 or 28, pretty much right in about that range. West-northwest wind gusting to 20 miles per hour. So it is going to be a little bit of a cooler, breezy day, especially for any sort of snow cleanup that you still might have to do. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. Those wind chills will be staying into the mid to upper teens. So we will definitely be staying cold as we go throughout the remainder of today. One thing we actually have seen though a little bit this morning is in downtown Bay City, the hill that's right next to Vets Bridge. We've actually seen some sledders there this morning, so always kind of fun to see that. But there are still plenty of students who don't have school today because of the conditions of a lot of secondary roads and residential streets. So if your students don't have school today, it would actually be a perfect day for doing some sledding and also another perfect day to maybe make a snowman or two, because this is still a really good packing snow, really good to do some of those outdoor activities. So something fun to do if you don't have any school for today. Now, in our forecast, we also do have a winter weather advisory that is coming in for Roscommon County. That goes until 4 this afternoon. That's because of some lake effect coming in there. Now, the heaviest of some of that lake effect, that's closer to Kalkaska, Bear Lake, some of those areas that are just to the northwest of our viewing area. But we still do have some of that lake effect coming in even around Houghton Lake right now. We'll zoom in a little bit closer. You can see some of these snow showers that are just sort of on and off for Higgins Lake, Houghton Lake, even around Prudenville and St. Helens. So if you're located up there, you definitely still have some snow on the way for the remainder of this Thursday. And with the advisory, you could actually see some snow totals in the neighborhood of about 1 to 2 inches by the end of the day as well. But we'll move the radar south. One thing that we have seen in Bay City too is actually some fresh snow moving through there. This is kind of what we're jokingly referring to as Bay effect or Saginaw Bay effect. Really, it's the same thing as lake effect, but what's happening here is that snow is coming in from the northwest towards Houghton Lake, and then it's actually fizzling out as it moves through much of Gladwin County and even northern Bay County, but then it's catching some of that moisture from the bay. So the bay is sort of re-energizing that snowfall. So that is why we're seeing some of those snow showers in Bay City and Essexville and even downwind of the bay for places like Quanticossee and down towards the Vassar areas and even around Fostoria at times. So we still have a little bit of that lake effect sticking around for us here as we go through today. But those snow totals are still expected to be somewhat minimal, I'd say, outside of some of the more focused spots. So where we do have the lake effect belts up towards Houghton Lake, we could still expect to see about another fresh inch or two of snowfall today, and I'd say directly downwind of the bay, so about the Quanticossee area especially, that is where you could still end up seeing, or even Akron or Fairgrove, you could see some totals possibly up to about an inch from that lake effect. But outside of that, we're really just talking a dusting of snow for the remainder of today and as we go into tonight. We could, however, see another quick round of snow picking up tomorrow night and then going into Saturday morning. So I'll fast forward the hour by hour here. Sorry, it's jumping around just a little bit. But this right here is about 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. There's some snow falling on the west side of the state. And you actually see here how some of these snow showers are able to make their way into mid-Michigan for early Saturday morning, and again the end of Friday night as well. So with this snowfall, we're expecting a light coating up to about an inch of snow at the very most. So we will start off the early portions of the weekend with a little bit of that fresh snow moving through. And you see once that moves out of here going into the rest of Saturday, while we still could have a couple of lingering snow showers, should be much quieter than the Friday night period. Now, as we go into this weekend, again, with these colder temps that we have on the way, it does just mean that the snowfall will be sticking around for now. We have seen, though, some signals in our longer-term model guidance that we actually could have sort of a small pattern change going into next week, especially the middle of next week. That should bring our temperatures back up a little bit more, even above freezing for much of our area as well. So that's one of the later trends that we're seeing in the forecast currently. So we will take a quick break here. When we come back from the break, we'll talk some more details on that. Alrighty, welcome back from that break. So looking ahead from here, we are tracking potentially a pattern change that could bring some slightly warmer temps in by the end of next week, and that would actually take us back into above freezing territory as well. Now, before that arrives, we're still tracking cold, below freezing temps for the remainder of this week and for the upcoming weekend. But I do want to actually show you a pretty interesting statistic here, just kind of some context. This calendar goes back to November 2nd, so pretty much the start of November. And if you remember, we started off the month there pretty nicely. We had some temps into the 50s, even that Tuesday, the 4th. We had a high of 61 that day. Outside of that, though, we've generally been seeing below average temperatures ever since the beginning of November, the majority of these days. So that's what's highlighted by the blue here on the calendar. And if you especially take note of where Thanksgiving is, on the Thanksgiving Day, we did officially have a high of 36 degrees, but pretty much since then, we've had below freezing temperatures nearly constantly every single day, even leading up to today. So what this has done, especially, is been giving our ice a good start for the season. Now, I do want to stress with that, not all of the ice out there is safe ice by any means just yet, but still, with all of this cold weather that we've had very consistently for almost 2 straight weeks now, it has been helping to build up that ice in shallower areas, on some rivers and some streams, and even some smaller inland lakes. And even on the Saginaw Bay, we're starting to build up just a little bit of that ice coverage as well. I'll take you back here to the map. That Saginaw Bay ice coverage, this does highlight 90 to 100%. So that is, again, technically the coverage that's coming in on the map. This is still a little bit of a general guideline, though, for the Saginaw Bay, and this does not represent ice thickness. This is just aerial coverage of that ice. So that's something to keep in mind, too. On the Saginaw Bay, some of that ice might be extending out a few hundred yards from the shoreline, but it is still far from safe, especially right out towards the end of it. But still, with this cold weather, it is helping to build up that ice. And I actually have seen a couple of fishing shanties already on the Saginaw River here in Saginaw. But still, again, just at least a good earlier start to the year with this. And I know our ice fishers are definitely liking that we have some ice that's starting to form right now. The hope, though, is that next week, when temperatures do warm up a little bit, we don't really see a significant dent into the ice coverage that we already have. So there's that temperature outlook going into next week. And this is starting to highlight For us, still more of an equal chance of whether or not we'll see above or below average temperatures, but you can see more of the country is being highlighted by above normal temperatures, and that has been sort of inching its way towards the Great Lakes in the last couple of outlooks here through the last couple of days. So this does indicate, again, just a chance that we could have above average or above normal temperatures. For today, that normal temp is 36. By next week, it'll be closer to 35 or even 34 in a few spots as well. So technically, above average at this point of the year does just mean upper 30s, but that is what the forecast is kind of starting to point to, at least for a few days towards the latter parts of next week. So you see that here in the First Alert 7-day forecast. We have temps into the teens for the most part this weekend, but then we warm up fairly quickly going towards Wednesday next week. So we're currently calling for a high of about 36 on Wednesday, and that even has a chance for some isolated rain showers as well, and we are expecting to see somewhat similar temps to that, so mid to upper 30s at the least Wednesday, and then likely on Thursday and Friday of next week too. Now at that point in the forecast, especially by next weekend, we're about 10 days out in the forecast. So that is really especially starting to get out there in the longer range. But there have been some signs suggesting that after that warm-up, we could almost say brief, like next weekend starts to fall back into colder temperatures once again. So we're going to have to still wait and give this several days to see how that pattern really starts to shape out as well. But it currently does look like we are going to start heading towards some above freezing temperatures by this time next week. But for our ice fishers and even for our snowmobilers and skiers, the hope is that it doesn't get too warm for too long so that we don't lose all of that ice or that we don't lose a lot of the snowpack that we have on the ground right now. But that is definitely something to keep an eye on for the longer range here in the forecast. But in the meantime, before that, still be prepared for a cold weekend ahead of us. I'll just show you that 7-day again. Cold weather, 17 on Saturday, 20 on Sunday, and those overnight lows this weekend generally falling down into the single digits as well. Well, for the remainder of today, we hope that you do have a great remainder of your Thursday morning, and we are going to have more weather updates coming to you throughout the daytime here, of course, especially on air. Our evening newscast coming up starting at 4 o'clock this afternoon. But in the meantime, we hope you have a great remainder of your Thursday morning and stay warm out there as well.